All right, guys, so today in social studies, you're going to be reading lesson 1 for land and water. And we're going to go over the vocabulary before you guys get started because these are 5 words that I really want you to have a good grasp of knowledge about before and after you read the selection. So the first word that we have is geography. So geography is the study of the earth and the people and things that live there. So if we're looking at geographers basically they just kind of ask questions about where a place is and what it's like. So they're trying to study everything about that location. The second word is landform, and landform is just a feature on the surface of the land. So I gave some examples here in parentheses. It could be a mountain, it could be a valley, it could be a plain, and so you're going to actually see some maps during this lesson and in our future lessons, and you're going to be able to see some of the landforms that North Carolina has. And you probably talked about that a little bit last year in 4th grade too for social studies. Plateau. Plateau is our third vocabulary word, and a plateau is a high, steep-sided area that is rising above the surrounding land. Okay, so if we think about, for example, the Rocky Mountains, they have some plateaus there. They have some high, steep-sided areas that rise above the surrounding land. And you'll see that when you read through the selection, they'll actually talk about the Rocky Mountains there. All right, and then we have climate. Climate is the type of weather a place has over a period of time. We're going to be talking about this when we do weather in science this year. But when we talk about climate, it's over a long period of time. It's not right now. So if we're talking about the weather in North Carolina, it is what's the temperature right now? Is it raining? Is it sunny? But when we look at climate, it is over a long period of time. So when we talk about climate in an area, like for example, North Carolina, we can say that it's very hot and humid in the summertime because that happens every year. All right, and then the last vocabulary word that we have is equator. And so the equator, we think of it as that imaginary line that runs around the middle of the earth. I kind of tell my kids, think of it like a belt. You know, you have your top half and your bottom half, and your belt's kind of in the middle. And what this equator does, this imaginary line, it separates the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere. In North Carolina, we live in the northern hemisphere of Earth. So that equator is basically just separating the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere. And you'll see this word again too when we do weather and science, because we talk about the differences of seasons in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere because they actually have opposite seasons. So right now it's summer here in North Carolina in the northern hemisphere, but the opposite is true in the southern hemisphere. So they're actually in their winter right now if you were to go south of the equator. Okay, so these are your vocabulary words that you need to know for today. What you're going to do now is you're going to take the time today to read lesson 1, land and water. And then tomorrow, I'm going to do a video to review what you guys read, and then you're going to work on some questions.